All right, here we are, part C in our pre-flight chapter, pre-flight action for aircraft. Who is responsible for determining if an aircraft is in an airworthy condition? Come on, everybody should know this. It's you. The pilot in command is responsible. What aircraft instruments and equipment are required for IFR operations? So we have an acronym for this, grab card. Those required for VFR day and night flight plus, although there's actually subtleties in the FAR, in 14 CFR 91.205, it really kind of states that during the day you need the atomato flames, if you remember. During the night you need the flaps and then plus the grab card. So really, just say this, okay? Without just those required for VFR day and night flight plus grab card. And so we have this acronym, grab card. A generator or alternator of adequate capacity. Radios, nav and comm equipment suitable for the route to be flown. Altimeter, sensitive. Ball, slip skid indicator of turn order. The ball for slip skid indicator. Clock, with hours, minutes, and second hand, and sweep second hand indicator or digital representation, and it must be installed as part of the aircraft equipment. Attitude indicator, rate of turn or turn coordinator. Directional gyro, your heading indicator. And if you're at flight level 240 and above, if VOR equipment is to be used, DME or RNAV is required. So yeah, take some time to remember the grab card acronym. What are the required tests and inspections to be performed on an aircraft? This includes inspections for IFR. So this one we have the aviates. So for the first one we have your inspections. Okay, So aviates. Airworthiness directives, that's your first one. Make sure those are complied with. VOR equipment check, that's V. VOR equipment check every 30 days. This is for IFR ops. Your inspections, this includes your 100-hour inspection if the aircraft is to be used for hire, or this includes flight instruction, as well as your annual inspection within the preceding 12 calendar months. Your altimeter, this includes altimeter and the pitot-static system by extension, all altitude recording equipment, static pressure systems. Transponder tests and inspections every 24 calendar months. And your ELT, this must be inspected every 12 calendar months. The battery must be replaced after 50% of its useful life, or recharged after 50% if it's rechargeable. And also after 1 hour of cumulative use. So how do you do this quickly as just a quick acronym? Aviates. Airworthiness directives, VOR equipment in the last 30 days, every 30 days, Inspections, that's annual and 100-hour. Altimeter with the pitot-static system. Transponder every 24 calendar months. ELT every 12 calendar months. You definitely want to be able to go through the book, the maintenance logbook, and be able to find all of this information. Do that, a few times before your check ride. During the pre-flight inspection in an aircraft that doesn't have a MEL, this is a minimum equipment list, you notice that an instrument or equipment item is inoperative. What do you do to determine that the aircraft is still airworthy for flight? All right, there's a long list of information here, but so you're going to ask yourself, I will ask myself the following questions to determine if I can legally fly the airplane with the inop equipment item. 1, are the inoperative instruments or equipment part of the VFR day type certification? 2, are the inoperative instruments or equipment listed as required on the aircraft's equipment list or kinds of operations equipment list for the type of flight operation being conducted? 3, are the inoperative instruments or equipment required 14 CFR 91.205 and 91.27, or any other rule of 14 CFR Part 91 for the specific kind of flight operation being conducted, like VFR, IFR, for example, day, night. And 4, are the inoperative instruments or equipment required to be operational by an airworthiness directive, an AD? If you have answered yes to any of these questions, this aircraft is not airworthy. Maintenance is required before you fly. If the answer is no to any of these questions, then the inoperative instruments or equipment must be removed by an A&P from the aircraft or deactivated and placarded as inoperative. By the way, it's a good time to bring up this question. I've heard this come up on check rides at my local airport, and because somebody could not answer correctly, they failed the check ride. Why? Because the information, it's subtle, but it was asked by the same DPE on the private pilot exam, and so it's because they still didn't know it by the time they got to their instrument exam, it was a failure. Seemed a little bit weird to fail for it, but it's because of, again, those circumstances. But what is the difference between a 100-hour inspection and an annual inspection? There really aren't any differences, except the same work should be done, but the difference is between who can perform them. An A&P, or airframe and power plant mechanic, A&P, they can do 100-hour inspections. But you must be an A&P with an IA, inspection authorization, to do the annual. That's the difference. It's really who can do them. In order to do the annual, which is a big one, you have to be an A&P with an IA. So, airframe and power plant mechanic with an inspection authorization to do the annual. Otherwise, simply an A&P can do the 100-hour inspections. All right. May portable devices, electronic devices, be operated on board an aircraft? Here's the official language, 91.21. No person may operate, nor may any PIC allow the operation of any portable electronic device. Uh-oh. All right. A, on aircraft operated by an air carrier or commercial operator, or B, on any other aircraft while it is operated under IFR. Well, shoot, what do we do? I got an iPad, an iPhone, what? Exceptions are portable voice recorders, hearing aids, heart pacemakers, electric shavers, or any other portable electronic device that the operator of the aircraft has determined will not cause interference with the navigation or communication system of the aircraft. Well, one seems to cancel the other out. Just simply use this language to exercise caution. All right. Next one. And our electronic chart systems, they call these the EFBs, the electronic flight bags, ForeFlight would be an example, approved for use as a replacement for paper reference material, such as POH, supplements, charts, etc. in the cockpit. Well, there's a lot there. The POH, we got to talk about that one, but supplements, charts, etc. Yes, they are. EFBs can be used during all phases of flight operations in lieu of paper reference material when the information displayed is the functional equivalent of the paper material replaced. And it's got to be current, up-to-date, and valid. It is recommended that a secondary or backup source of aeronautical information necessary for the flight be available. So it just really, really doesn't hurt to have the paper backup for everything. As far as the POH goes, though, you really want the POH that came with the airplane from the manufacturer. All right. What documents are required on board an aircraft prior to flight? This you should really know. The ARO, have our airworthiness certificate, must be on display. Registration certificate. If you're going to go outside of the U.S., your radio station license. Operating limitations. And weight and balance data that is current. You should also have placarded, by the way, a compass deviation card. And just honestly check your POH with the placards you need. But just remember that arrow for your daily flights. What additional aircraft documentation should be on board an aircraft equipped with an IFR approved GPS? So we've talked about our documents we need, but you've got an IFR approved GPS. What else do you need? Most GPS systems require an airplane flight manual supplement, AFMS, and cockpit reference guide or quick reference guide to be on board as a limitation of use. So you just check your unit. How often are GPS databases required to be updated? This is going to be good to know. When you get on your check ride, is your database updated? When your DPE asks you, how do you know? The navigation database is updated every 28 days. Obstacle databases may be updated every 56 days. And terrain and airport map databases are updated as needed. Okay, here's another good question. Can a GPS with an expired database be used for navigation under IFR? All right, so your database is expired. You want to fly with your GPS. You're flying IFR. Can you do it? All right, the navigation database contained in the GPS FMS must be current if the system is to be used for IFR approaches. So if you're going to fly an approach, it must be current. Some units will allow en route IFR operations with the database expired if the nav waypoints are manually verified by referencing the official current source, such as your en route chart. So long as you go through and whatever your waypoints are current according to the current chart and they match, you're okay to use it for en route operations, but you cannot fly the approach. You're going to have to fly one of the other ground-based approaches. Can a pilot perform the required database updates, or must this be done by some sort of authorized maintenance personnel? Updates of databases of installed avionics may be performed by pilots, provided they can be initiated from the flight deck and performed without any disassembly of the avionics unit and performed without the use of tools and or special equipment. You'll see a lot of like SIM card type things, the larger SD cards, whatever, that would be used for a camera. That's how I know our 430 it's updated, and so the gentleman that works in the office will go out and do that. Any pilot can do that. So because nothing special is required. It doesn't need to be disassembled. Nothing like that. All right. When utilizing GPS for IFR navigation, are you required to have an alternate means of navigation appropriate for the route of flight? Okay, you're flying IFR, you're utilizing GPS. Do you need an alternate means? Well, remember those numbers, 129. Well, we have 145, 146. We've got some different numbers here. Here we go. Ready? Aircraft using GPS TSO-C129 or TSO-C196 non-WAS navigation equipment under IFR must be equipped with an approved and operational alternate means of navigation appropriate to the flight. Understand what I'm saying? If you have a non-WAS GPS, you have to have something other than the GPS as a backup. So during pre-flight, ensure that this equipment is on board and operational and that all required checks have been performed. Remember your 30-day VOR check we talked about. Active monitoring of alternate navigation equipment is not required if the GPS receiver uses RAIM for integrity monitoring. So you have to have it in the aircraft, but you don't have to monitor it if you have RAIM. Active monitoring of an alternate means of navigation is required when the RAIM capability of the GPS equipment is lost. That honestly should be common sense. If you get a RAIM alert, how do you know that you have accurate, positive course guidance? You don't. So you're going to monitor, VOR and OBS2 or something like that. All right. How can a pilot determine what type of operations a GPS receiver is approved for? The pilot should reference the FAA-approved AFM and AFM supplements to determine the limitations and operating procedures for the particular GPS equipment installed. Think about that. So just go to the AFM. Is your GPS approved for the? This is just honestly good to know. One of those things you don't want to. It's kind of something we don't necessarily think about because you've been training with that same unit all the time, and so if this comes up on a check ride, just know where that information's at. Can a handheld GPS receiver be used for IFR operations? All right, so I'm going to just say here, I've got my iPhone in my hands. It's got ForeFlight on it. My iPhone does have GPS. It's got actual hardware GPS. So does my iPad because I have the one that's good for cellular. I don't have cellular data, but it has hardware GPS on it. Or something you got from Sporties, I don't know. VFR, visual flight rules, and handheld GPS systems are not authorized for IFR navigation, instrument approaches, or as a principal instrument flight reference. During IFR operations, they may be considered only as an aid to situational awareness. So understand, these things are fine when you're flying VFR because you're already employing various systems anyway. You might even just be looking at that lake on the ground and saying, okay, I know where I'm at. But if you're using it for IFR, no, you can't. That's the short answer. You cannot use handheld GPS. In fact, you can't even use one, as we talked about before, that's installed in the aircraft if it's not installed according to certain regulations approving it for IFR navigation. During pre-flight, you notice several static discharge wicks. Those are on your maybe they're installed on your wings. Those little kind of wires hanging off the back of the wing or the tailing edge of the wing, or your horizontal stabilizer. You notice when your several static discharge wicks are missing from your airplane. Explain the function of the static wicks and the problems that could occur in flight if they are missing. All right. So one of these wicks is missing. Why, I don't even know what that would be, but it is. So static dischargers, or these wicks, are installed on aircraft to reduce radio receiver interference caused by, get this, corona discharge emitted from the aircraft as a result of precipitation static. Wow. Precipitation static occurs when an aircraft encounters airborne particles during flight, such as rain or snow, and develops a negative charge. The problems created by P static range from, serious, such as complete loss of VHF communications and erroneous magnetic compass readings, to the annoyance of high-pitched audio squealing. That latter one I've encountered before, because I do fly a plane that does not have these wicks, and I do get some high-pitched audio squealing from time to time. So there you go. There isn't, as far as I know, a requirement that they be there, but just do be aware of what could happen if you do not have these wicks.